together for peace. Okay, I got it. Good evening. How are you, everyone? It's beautiful. I see the faces that, I know for a long time. And I'm so happy to see you. But today we had like a major problem. The Zoom messed up our meetings and it's all gone. And we had to figure out how to re-invite everybody. So I just couldn't, I'm sure I didn't reach out to everybody who wanted to come. But, I feel so bad. But this happens. And in this side, in the city of Kingston of New York, we had major storm actually. And yes, and Manna Jo Greene was supposed to be doing her presentation today from her home, but she lost her power. I think so as Professor Konigsberg, and he was thinking about doing another presentation, but he quickly print out his things and took a picture of it and send it over to Ray. So he had something, but the whole thing is very interesting, right, coaster. But I hope more people will join us a little later. But today I was supposed to do Manna Jo Greene's presentation first, and I wanted to find out if Manna Jo is ready or not. Would you like to do that, Manna Jo?
Okay, very good. Thank you, Yoko. And I'm ready to get started. If Ray is ready to make full screen, and I will help us understand how we can, in the process of retiring nuclear power plants, transition to a renewable energy economy. And it's my great privilege to do so. Okay, so phasing out nuclear power as we rapidly transition to a renewable energy economy with storage and efficiency. Because when you transition to a renewable energy economy, the wind, the water, and the sun are not there constantly. So storage and efficiency are important parts of the equation. So nuclear power has been in use for more than 50 years. We have 96 operating reactors at 58 nuclear power plants across the country. Here in this region, Indian Point dominates the scene, and that is more than 40 years old. It started to close this year in April. The first of the two operating reactors closed down. There is also another stage of this, and that's called consolidated interim storage, which is happening, hopefully will not happen, but is already starting to happen. And we're trying to prevent it from being expanded in New Mexico and Texas. And it's extremely dangerous to transport nuclear waste across the country. But I want us to remember, as we remember Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which happened in August of 1945, the year of my birth, there was also, as part of the Manhattan Project, the code name Trinity, which is the explosion, the first detonation of a nuclear device, and that was in Alamogordo in New Mexico. And we're working very closely and are in contact with the First Nation people and Hispanic people that were in that area and still live in that area today, which is targeted for nuclear waste. So I want to pay homage and honor to them. And I also want to say that nuclear accidents do happen. 3 Mile Island happened in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, and Fukushima in 2011. At that time, the Commissioner, Greg Yatsko of the NRC, asked that the NRC staff do a report on the lessons learned from Fukushima, and they essentially refused. They ignored his request and ultimately forced him out. And sadly, that says a lot about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. On the horizon are the next generation of nuclear power plants, or sometimes called advanced nuclear reactors or small modular reactors. And our position, Clearwater's position and our allies, is leave it in the ground. Uranium does not belong in any weapon or in any form of generating nuclear power. And then the environmental community itself is very divided over the use of nuclear power, and we hope to educate our allies. But when you think that nuclear power is clean energy, you are ignoring the vast amounts of nuclear waste. Indian Point itself has over 2,000, or approaching 2,000 tons of highly radioactive waste stored on site. New York also has a $7.6 billion nuclear subsidy that is paying to operate plants that are not economical in Western New York. And that's a picture of Indian Point, of the reactors, and it says the end of an era. The age of nuclear power is phasing out, and the age of nuclear waste at these 96 operating reactors, which will all be closing and decommissioning within the next decade or so. Next. So I want to take a minute and show this picture. What is spent fuel? Well, after the fuel has been put into the reactor, the fuel itself is that little tiny fuel pellet. It is loaded into a fuel rod. The fuel rods are then assembled into a fuel assembly. And you can see this gentleman is holding a fuel pellet in his hand, and it's not hurting him. But when those fuel pellets are put into the reactor in a certain configuration, it starts a nuclear chain reaction. And that's where the energy comes from, and the residual from that is highly radioactive nuclear waste. So he can hold it before safely in his hand, but afterwards you can't get anywhere near without being exposed to a lethal dose that will kill you in seconds. Next. And this is just a picture of how the nuclear fission occurs. A neutron splits a uranium-235 atom, and huge amounts of energy are released, and fission products are released, and more neutrons. And those more neutrons then, anything they hit, they smash into and shatter, and that is what a chain reaction looks like. And that's what next. And that's what occurs in the reactor. The reactor is on the left, and that's a diagram of it. And it has 6 inches of, rather 6 feet of reinforced concrete. So it's very well protected. But the fuel buildings that store the spent fuel, so-called spent but highly radioactive fuel rods, are unprotected. And so after the energy has been released and captured, and boiled water to turn the turbine to generate electricity, those fuel rods that are called spent are put into a fuel pool and should be there at the minimum of 5 to 10 years. The ones at Indian Point have been there as long as 40 years. After they have cooled off slightly but are still highly radioactive, they're moved into dry cask storage. And you can see that these casks are clustered and potentially a terrorist target. Also, they're put into a canister, a thin-walled canister before they're loaded into the concrete cask, and there's lots of questions about the safety of those canisters. Next. So here in New York, to try to protect New Yorkers, particularly because Indian Point is closing first, we have created some legislation. We worked with Peter Harcum and Sandy Galiff, and we've been working on this for several years. It's going through the legislature now. We almost had it passed, and then the company pushed back, and now we have a little bit of a snag. But if you're looking for environmental action to participate in, call your legislators, New York State legislators, and get this oversight board passed. What it is an opportunity for all the New York State agencies that have any jurisdiction over Indian Point, rather over decommissioning, for them to meet at least 4 times a year with representative members from the community to provide oversight and jurisdiction where they have it. The company that is supposed to do the decommissioning, Holtec, is a very bad actor. They have a history of malfeasance, lying to public officials, bribery, corruption, and worse. And they also make these thin-walled canisters, so they would benefit in many ways if they're not carefully overseen. Also, we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. If there was a problem, evacuation, which from Indian Point would be nearly impossible anyway, but just imagine trying to evacuate during a pandemic. There's a national group of folks all over the country, reactors, and also target sites for interim storage that are working together, and we have bi-weekly calls. And in the region, there's a group called Unity for Clean Energy, which is people trying to prevent fossil fuel infrastructure, particularly the Algonquin pipeline, which runs right under Indian Point, working with the people that are trying to close nuclear reactors and prevent this continuous buildup of high-level nuclear waste. Where is the replacement power going to come from? It's going to come from renewable energy, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I do want to say that the New York independent system operators and others have done studies to show that we don't need the power from Indian Point, and we can replace it without investing in gas-fired or fossil fuel infrastructure. And an example that Clearwater is opposing is right on the Hudson River. And you can see that picture of Dan Scammer on the lower right. It really is on a peninsula in the Hudson River that is prone to sea level rise and storm surges. So there was a wonderful webinar, fact versus fiction, about Dan Scammer, and that information is either on our website or will be. 22 municipalities have passed resolutions in opposition. Gardner is considering that right now, and many others. So find out if your municipality has passed a resolution in opposition. 150 elected officials have signed off saying no more fossil fuel infrastructure. So please help us in that regard. Next. And this is the good news. The good news is that we are working with the unions, both for the fossil fuel, for any fossil fuel infrastructure, and also the nuclear plants that are closing, to ensure a just transition for the workers as we move to a renewable energy economy. And the way we know we're moving to a renewable energy economy is that New York State has passed a law, the Climate Reality and I'm sorry, I just finished a climate reality training. It should say the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And the goals of that are 70% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% in New York by 2040. aggressive greenhouse gas emission reduction, which means no dance scammer, no more fossil fuel infrastructure. And it also means divesting from fossil fuel. And if anyone tells you that fracked gas is cleaner, yes, when it burns, it's cleaner than coal and oil, but in its life cycle, methane is released during fracking, and et cetera. And methane is one of the most highly potent greenhouse gases. So the good news is that transitioning to a renewable energy economy with storage and efficiency is going to create lots of green jobs, and it's going to help our economy. Here in the Hudson Valley, we have a 7-county plan that is actively being developed, and we'll move forward to meet the goals of CLCPA, Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, here in the 7-county region by 2030, 2040, et cetera. So, and also the House Select Committee just published a 550-page document called Solving the Climate Crisis, a congressional roadmap for ambitious decarbonization. And so thank you very much. I think, you know, if you want more information, please contact me at Clearwater. And if you want more details, I have PowerPoints on all the topics that I touched on here, hopefully within the 10 minutes I was allotted. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Manna Jo. I hope that everybody kind of got a good knowledge and learned about what's going on right now. And the whole purpose of Bon-odori Dance Festival is I want, you know, this community people to learn about how dangerous nuclear, not only the weapon, but also the nuclear power plant itself and our lifestyle, depending on the energy produced by that whole system, is pretty dangerous. So, you know, I would like to present like 2 subjects to discuss today. The first one is, why do we need to abolish nuclear? And from here, I want, you know, Carol Robbins, she is a moderator today, and she would like to introduce yourself. Carol, where are you?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm so glad everyone was able to join us in this blustery, weathery night. It's just, I'm up in Maine and it's just arriving, so hopefully our power will stay on. And I wanted just to welcome everyone to the Kingston Peace Conference 2020 as a part of 75 years later, a week of unity commemorating Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I'd like at this time to have Professor Alvin Konigsberg join us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Al, and if you can sort of follow up with what Manna Jo has shared with us so far this evening, that would be great. And I also wanted to let people know who have questions or comments that if you know where to find your chat button under the more sign, please feel free to send in any questions or thoughts, and we will manage those and make sure that the people who can best answer them will at some point this evening. So Al, are you there?
I'm here and I'm happy to be here. I have no Wi-Fi as a result of the power failure. So I'm on a cell system, but I think it's going to work because we figured out how to show what I wanted to talk about and lead a discussion in. And what I thought would be very helpful here would be to for all of us to talk a little bit about the major problems associated with nuclear energy, some of which Manna covered in her talk, but I've kind of simplified it to a list of what I think of as 10 major problems associated with nuclear energy. And I'm not going to lecture on it as much as let's just see how people think about how to deal with some of this stuff and what level of seriousness it represents in our minds for people on the panel. My background is that I taught at SUNY New Paltz for almost 50 years, and I was responsible for areas of natural resources and energy. So when I did talk about energy, when I did teach an energy course, nuclear was always on the table for consideration. And so Ray, could you put up my list? We had to do a runaround in order to get this available, because I couldn't get anything out of my computer without Wi-Fi. Oh, there it is. That's even better. We can see all 10 of them. So I think I managed to come up with a list of 10 major problems associated with nuclear energy. And I think Manna covered some of these and had some really nice illustrations. But I'm just wondering how people on the panel feel about all of these. Manna touched on nuclear waste, a little bit on nuclear fuel production. Weapons proliferation is a problem that I added, and what that's about is the fact that any country that has reactor technology, in other words, any country that's using nuclear power to make electricity and has an operating reactor, has the possibility to extract plutonium from the spent fuel. Plutonium is a very, very dangerous chemical, both in terms of being poisonous chemically, but particularly if you can get together about 10 kilograms or so of plutonium, that's enough to put together a suitcase kind of nuclear bomb. Plutonium was the material that was used in one of the two bombs that was tragically dropped on Japan at the end.
Yeah, that was for Nagasaki.
The first one was a uranium bomb.
Yes.
That was Hiroshima, and Nagasaki was a plutonium bomb. And I can talk more about that because it was a terrible thing that was done for all kinds of reasons, and I'm sure other people will have strong feelings about that. Manna talked about accidents. We've had our accidents. I won't talk about the details of the accidents, other than accidents result in release of radioactivity, which leads to cancer risk. Number 5, reactor siting continues to be a problem. Where do we put these? If we want to have nuclear technology, is there any appropriate place to put these reactors? And cost, number 7. What that means is we've discovered at the end of World War II, it was said that nuclear reactors to make electricity would be so inexpensive that everybody could have free electricity. It hasn't quite worked out that way. As a matter of fact, what's happened is reactor costs to build and run nuclear reactors have gone through the roof, in spite of the government attempting to subsidize this industry and keep it viable. And as a result, this makes number 8 an unfair competition, because Manna talked about going to renewables. If we put as much money into renewables as we continue to put into not only nuclear but also fossil fuels, renewables would look a lot better economically. Poor countries obviously can't have nuclear technologies. I don't think they want nuclear technologies. And if poor countries did want nuclear technologies, it would be detrimental to them because of it's an advanced technology and it requires a high level of expertise, which many poor countries don't have. And I think that's fortunate for them that they can have and shouldn't have nuclear reactors. And finally, Manna talked a little bit about the problem of decommissioning, and she mentioned Indian Point, which has reached the end of its lifetime. And what do you do with the reactor after it no longer can produce energy? Do you take it apart and bury it somewhere? Do you build a fence around it and guard it for 250,000 years, which is roughly the lifetime of plutonium? And so that also was covered a little bit in the PowerPoint. But I'll open it up for discussion, and people can say what they think, what their main concerns are relating to these issues and any other issues that you might have around the use of nuclear power.
That's great, Al. Thank you very much. We would like to open up the floor for a discussion. We've got about 10 minutes where we'd like to allow some of the speakers that have been invited here this evening to share any thoughts they have. And I wanted to have Donna, Coane on the list of possible people that would like to address this as well. If you'd like to start, Donna, and just explain who you are and give us your insight into the issue of nuclear. Please unmute yourself. Donna?
There we go. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Donna Coane, and I'm pretty much I'm a little bit of everything, but I'm a lead of Spirit of Thunderheart, lead singer and drummer and producer, but I also do several other things, including environmental related to our native, of course, my native side. What I'd like to talk about is about the dumping on reservations. What people don't realize is that a lot of this toxic waste, especially nuclear waste, is stored on reservations in these storage units. And what happens is that they do end up sometimes leaking, and then that causes problems on the reservation of environmentally, of the land, the water, the air, but also of the people, which we know that a lot of these toxic chemicals that are in nuclear waste, which is all of the ABCs, as we know, causes a number of health issues as cancer and respiratory illnesses, and among other things. So, this is widespread throughout the United States, actually. When a lot of treaties being broken is a major problem with a lot of tribes, because that's when it ends up being where it's almost like a checkerboard idea that happens on a reservation, where a company will move in and set up a storage unit where that nuclear waste goes. But it's also, it spans to also fracking waste and other types of waste also. But the nuclear waste is a huge, huge issue, because as we know, once you store nuclear waste, it has to be protected. It has to be protected from, of course, vandalism, terrorist, but also other issues of, as we know, of what I said about leaks onto the land and the water and the air and the people, and health-wise also, and also the farm animals that are on some of the reservations, the animals and the food that we actually plant on our reservations for, substance. So it's a big concern. It goes from all the way from the Blackfeet to the Yucca to the Nevada, of course, California. A lot of it happens out west, but it also happened even up here in the north, including the Seneca, where they have huge oil waste up there, fracking and oil. A lot of houses were deemed not livable. So when you drive through a reservation, if you go so far, you see all these abandoned homes, and that's because of the fracking and the water being polluted. So it's like pretty much a whole thing with the United States, with this, what goes on with our nations of our first people. And you know, a lot of times it gets buried like kind of under the table because people don't really know that end of it. You know, we fight for our communities where we live, whether it's urban, suburban, or city or country, but yet it doesn't extend to the reservations and reserve communities. And, you know, so that's where the major problem is. My concern is what happens with this nuclear waste. Where are these companies going to take it to be stored? Where is it going? What's going to happen to it? Because a lot of times, like I said, it ends up on our lands, being put on our reservations. So that's like a real big concern of this nuclear waste. And of course, we talked about possibility of nuclear weapons too. That's another concern also. But you know, it's really scary when you think of you know, people that, you know, we always try to have a voice, but we're not always heard. You know, so that's another concern also. So hopefully, in my short little time, I pretty much, you know, touched on what I wanted to portray of, you know, what happens on the reservations throughout this country.
Thank you, Donna. It's important to get a personal take on it, because so often for many of us, it's something down the river or in another state or halfway across the country. And to actually hear, you know, personal effects that are occurring in so many territories around the country. And so I'd like to open up at this point, if there's other people who are part of the invited guests, if you'd like to join in the discussion as to either personal experiences or a story or two that might help us get a deeper sense of why it's so important as we move forward, which will be the next conversation. Why do we need to be abolishing the nuclear system as we have it in our country and around the world today? So if anyone would like to speak up, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself. We have a few minutes to further discuss this. And so I'll open that up and let people add their thoughts. If there are any questions coming in, Ray, let me know. We can share those as well. Fumi, would you like to say a few words maybe at this time? I don't want to stop anyone else from speaking, but just to keep the conversation going would be great.
Yeah, well, you know, I come from more or less the human consciousness movement. So, you know, when I hear about the real threat, you know, it's 100 seconds before midnight. I mean, that is such a sobering reality for all of us living here on planet Earth. Everyone, you know, including Mother Earth. So with that reality, you know, how does it affect each and every one of us? I think any decent human being, if they're realize and get educated about the real threat of what's happening now, I can't understand why we cannot all converge in our ways, our thoughts, our actions, and do something about it. You know, it's been 75 years. It almost just astonishes me. So, you know, back to where we really need to evolve as humans. We really need to wake up. We really need to learn from our mistakes. I think, you know, Earth is still in a process. It's still growing. It's still in a process of awakening. I really feel, you know, strongly that all of us here in different areas, we could be in education, we could be in political activism, we could be peace activists, we could be drummers, we could be singers, we could be, you know, doing rituals. We all have to know of each other, get together, and just converge in creating a big energy field to move civilization forward. And that's, you know, hearing all of you and the reality of what we're facing, you know, I take it to heart. And, you know, so let's all step up in our
in our communities, in what we do, educate people, talk about this, bring the youth on. The youth really, I think it's all about education and really changing the mindset. But it's not the mind that has to change, it's the heart that has to change. I really feel that it's the heart. You know, we need to change the heart, and we need to open the hearts. And however way we feel that we can do it, I think we're all equally responsible to do that, take action, and be committed to this, you know, move humanity forward. So that's what I'm feeling right now after I'm listening to Manna Jo and, you know, all the information that I just heard and processing. I'll be processing this for a while. So thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much. Youko, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I met Fumi-san very recently, and through the lady Dot, I met this lady at the Peace Conference last year that was held in Mohonk Mountain House, and I just wanted to mention a little bit about them. And this organization, not-for-profit organization called Mohonk Consultations, they have been, I think it's not going in speaker side, Ray. Yeah, is that good? All right. Showing for me, it's okay though. And sorry, you know, I was invited to sing a song with Livia Vanover, and I did sing "Where's All the Flowers Gone," and the Peter Seeger's song in Japanese, and also I attended the 3 days peace conference. That's where I got the idea of the, you know, presenting peace conference for everybody to share the ideas and how you can think and what's the latest thing about you know, banning nuclear waste and all kinds of things. And they've been doing this like 151 years. So before each war this country engaged, they got together and trying to pull out the, you know, brains, how we can stop it. And I feel like there are so many people in the United States, you know, made efforts, so much effort to stop the war, stop the bombing, and but these people are not recognized in Japan. Unfortunately, most of Japanese people believe that 70% of American people believe that that was a good thing to drop bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it's really not true. And I know it. And as a first generation of Japanese and living in the States for 40 years, and my kids grew up in here, and this is truly my home, and I know my home. And there's so many people trying to stop that inhumane, you know, acts. And but I just wanted to just you know, send my appreciation to Mohonk Consultations, and they've been trying so hard and just spreading the word for peace. So my thing, I just wanted to mention that you know, I counted that numbers of accidents, like nuclear power plant accidents, and it's almost like, you know, it's been 75 years since 1945 after Trinity, the first testing, and obviously this Hiroshima and Nagasaki was testing. And the government really wanted to find out how that the actual effect on the human body. So ABCC, that Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission, was built to do the intensive research to find out how bad it could be. And I met Dr. Mary Louise Johnson a few years ago, and she was one of the dermatologist was invited to do the research. And she was a young, beautiful, most bright young lady. And we had a meeting 2 years ago while we are holding this Bon-odori Dance Festival for Peace. And she just clearly said, it cannot happen again. It's how bad the bombing is. And they, you know, I'm just kind of shifting from what I was talking about. But I counted the numbers of the accidents, nuclear accidents, and it's almost like, and the level is like Chernobyl and Fukushima is the worst, and that's level 7. But between 3 and 7, it's almost like the average of 5.5. It's almost happening every year somewhere in the world. And that is really true. 5.5 level is happening somewhere in the world almost every year. And lots of them were hidden, actually. And Chernobyl wasn't the first accident in Russia either. So, it's pretty much, controlled by government. But what is the government doing? Are they working for people? That was always my biggest question, because during the World War II, no Japanese wanted war. They were so sad, their sons are going to die and they're losing their houses, their business. And because that was fascism, military was taking over Japan. And these people were used as a guinea pig. And initially that was targeted to German. But when, Nazi just surrendered, they just targeted to Japan. But I believe that they actually didn't drop the bomb because German is white. And at that time in the world, the German had the best universities in the world. Robert Oppenheimer went there, actually. And, many people were from there. And also this is a, racism issue. So what I see in the future is like no racism. So then everybody has to be equal. Then nobody just think to drop bombs. That's, I really wanted to say, just talking about the numbers of the nuclear accidents, it's way too much. We are not treated as real humans. We're treated as guinea pig or consumers. And I think it's not the time for nuclear power. It's time for human power. We have to speak out. That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you, Youko. And we're not perishable either. We're not guinea pigs, and we're not perishable for someone else's experiments. We only have a couple of minutes left before we bring on our second topic. So if there's anyone that would like to add a word or two, please, if you can do the online raising of your hand for Ray to see and unmute you. Otherwise, we can, let's go back to seeing everybody. If anyone sees, okay, Al would like to add some words, please do.
Okay. One of the horrible things about the bombings was that the American scientists actually calculated the altitude at which the bombs were supposed to explode so that the radiation reaching the ground would be minimum. They were supposed to figure out when the bomb exploded that the radiation would rise upward and dissipate. And one of the tragedies of those bombings was for how many years people suffered, the Japanese people suffered from radiation effects well after the destructive bombing, the destruction of the bomb had passed. And for me, when I just think about that, that's one of the really, really heartbreaking things about what happened. And they just didn't get it right. Or maybe I don't want to talk about anything even more sinister than that even. But the other thing that happened was right after the bombing, within a month, they sent scientists into Japan to study the radiation effects on the population. So it was a pretty, it was horrible. It was really, in its own way, a crime against humanity.
Thank you. Thank you.
thing or no? I don't know when. Am I supposed to talking now or later?
Oh,
Hi,
you're
Mayu.
going to be coming. You're coming in the second in the next. What's opening up right now? You're just about. Get ready. Get ready. Actually, I wanted to pass the microphone over to Youko to introduce the next topic.
Yes. So the next topic, this is really, why, it's bad, the nuclear. So what can we do? What can we do to take step forward? I really want to hear from like many people like Carmen, who's been doing like wonderful work in it, Africa, teaching the dancing, and what just to bring in people, what we can do, just like Fumi-san said, we definitely need education, the elementary school education, junior high school, and high school and college. But besides those education, what can we do? What's the next step? That will be the next subject for discussion.
So I see on our list of a special guest, Mayu Seto. Is she singing or speaking? I'm not sure what her role is going to be as the starting out in this next section. There she is.
Yes.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Hello. So I believe I should speak now. Is it?
Okay.
Is it right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am speaking from Hiroshima, and I'm from Hiroshima. And actually, my grandmother is also atomic bomb survivor, and so I was so-called third generation. I am so-called third generation survivor. And now I'm in the cafe I'm working for. It's in Hiroshima City, near the city center, near the Peace Memorial Park. And here, I try to explain what I do in Hiroshima, my activism in Hiroshima. But one of the work I do is working for this cafe, and here we organize many events per month, like 30 events per month related to social issues, including nuclear issues. And among them, we have opportunities to talk to survivors and 3 times a month. So we invite survivors who sit down in a table, and visitors, local visitors or visitors from outside of Hiroshima, outside of Japan, can come to sit in the cafe together with survivors and meet them, not as a lecturer, not as special people, but just in ordinary people sitting in front of them. We think it's really important to make friends with them. Like I experienced to make friends with them, so that the atomic bomb happened in Hiroshima. It's not things happened in the history, but happened to my grandmother, happened to the person in front of me, happened to my friends. So it's really changing my point of view. It really changed my point of view. So we want everyone who visit Hiroshima to experience this. So we open this place for those visitors to Hiroshima. And also I work as a singer-songwriter, and other work I do with my friends is kind of lobbying activity. We started a group called Kakuwaka Hiroshima, where we make appointment to Diet members who elected from Hiroshima and ask them why the Japanese government cannot join or do not join the nuclear ban treaty, because the Japanese government are opposing to the treaty. We simply want to ask why. And we want to ask them, there are, those Diet members of ruling party or, opposition parties, both of them. So we try to reach them and just ask and show, young people are interested in this issue, and we want you to push the government for us because you're representative of us. So yeah, it's really interesting work to do. And, it's both important that we have to learn from what happened 75 years ago, but at the same time, we have to push the situation right now. So this is what we do in Hiroshima. Thank you. It's short speech. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, it's such a difficult time in the world right now with COVID-19 interrupting our regular lives and putting some topics that need to stay on the front burner to the back. And it's so important, as you say, for the young people around the world to see that not only was this something that happened, but the result of those accidents and the ongoing accidents, as Youko said, is going to be with us forever. And it's as important now for young people to get involved as it was for my generation in the 70s and for my parents' generation, you know, when they were adults in the 50s. And so if we can open up, and I'd like to actually at this point have the Reverend Dr. Kenjitsu Nakagaki, who's a Buddhist priest, join in the conversation. We'd like to open up the floor to you, please.
So thank you very much. Then thank you very much for having this wonderful discussion. And it's very important to have a dialogue and learning. And so I really appreciate, and then I'm very grateful to be part of it. And you know, I'm always standing from that side of what I have, and I believe each one has their own way to bring the peace, and then which is very important. I think it's not like a try to be somebody else to do, you know, somebody who are doing something nice. So I wanted to be like that. I think it's nice to be, you know, inspired, but yet in the end, you wanted to find your own way to bring the peace. It could be, you know, it cannot be always famous and known, but rather, you know, you just do what you feel like it's a very important to do things to do, and then what I can do. And then so happened to be I'm Buddhist priest, and then came to the United States, and I serve at the Buddhist temple. Used to be. I left like 10 years ago, but I served like 16 years as a head priest. And then the statue that they have in front of the temple was a surviving atomic bomb in Hiroshima. So of course I came, actually I'm from Japan, but originally from Osaka, Japan. So not either, you know, Hiroshima or Nagasaki either. But yet here, one of the awareness for me was the, you know, the atomic bomb was dropped to Hiroshima, Nagasaki, but Japan, basically. So it was a different things. You know, when I was in Japan, Osaka, you know, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and those are the one that atomic bomb was dropped. But I never thought that was dropped to Japan. Kind of weird and a different thinking. But now I feel like, oh, so that Japan is the only country who, you know, experienced those, you know, difficult, you know, the atomic bomb. So in a way, well, of course, it's happened to be that way, but yet, in a way, it's karmically, we have the position that we should be responsible, not to talk about sharing the thoughts and then sharing the difficulties so that people can learn, and then also people are able to think what it means to have nuclear weapons. And but at the same time, you know, how can you stop those cycle of anger? Because if somebody was killed by somebody, then, you know, you always wanted to revenge something sometimes and so forth. But then that kind of thoughts, you know, at least for the Buddhist things, is that's not good, because circle never end. You know, you did something, so that's what you remember, and you know, sometimes you just wanted to come back again. Then it's just a circle of hate is more and more coming. You know, the increase. So that's why the way that we think, at least for my part of the practice, is that, you know, whatever the things happens, you know, happen to be that way, but yet the dealing with the compassion or dealing with everything for the, you know, not everybody is not perfect, so everybody make mistake, and of course everybody do the nice things too. But so the human has a potential to be good and bad. But you know, so past is the past. You can't change it anyway. But yet, by, you know, the learning so many things from the past, that really changed the past too. You know, that maybe that's a part of the history. You can consider as a history. So which means it's sort of like a done deal in one way, but yet you learn from something and you try to go something based upon the learning from the history. And so I believe, you know, the way the Hiroshima, Nagasaki now is nice to be like a peace, you know, instead of all this nuclear weapons and so many people killed, but yet there always is a focus on the peace, because this tragedy is too much. So nobody should, you know, experience this sadness. And so, and then for Buddhist point, I think, so that I just said the hate how you deal with the hate. Because here, always anger, everything is angry and stuff like that. But then the anger, for me, is not really leading to the right place. And then the, inner peace itself is kind of, one thing is dealing with your selfish greed, and also the anger, which is sort of related to when you get angry, when you get harm to yourself, not the other people much, but so it's always connected to the self-centeredness. But yet, so many parts, so what kind of a mind that you're going to have, or a mind or a heart? Actually, I enjoyed Fumi-san's talk too. But so the way where your heart raised in love and compassion, and then maybe probably based upon wisdom to be able to see what's really going on. And so that's something for me is very, very important. And also the dialogue. For me, the interface is that I'm doing, because I'm Buddhist, but yet when we do something like a peace ceremony, I always with the other group of the religious leaders, which create it's not the one person can solve the problem, but rather everybody else all together should solve the problems too. So that's why we need to have a dialogue and everything. And so that's my way of bringing the peace. And so I hope, so you'll find I'm sure here, the people who are here find already the way to bring the peace, but I hope you will continue. And then so that's become really the kind of grounded work, and then the cultivating all the grounds, and so that whatever the plants, if the seed is planted, that grows. I think it's a way to grow their mind is also, you need to really cultivate the mind of compassion, mind of love, and mind of understanding, care for other people, and see instead of just likes and dislikes, maybe to respect the life itself, not the color, the skin of the colors, or something that we always have, but rather each person become the well, at least the Buddhism that we say Buddha nature, meaning have a potential to become enlightened. So that's why we just respect each other and learn each other, and then try to bring the peace each other together. And so that's the one just question for me was always US. I hope US is more responsible, because happen to be US is the one who used the weapons. And I'm sure all of you who are here is very responsible to be whatever the action you did. But hopefully all the United States as a country, or UN too. But why they can't do even like a memorial service? And that's also another thing. For me, sorry, the nice part of the United States, the people I came to the United States, and I realized is that when I explain what is right, or once they're aware, they change their mind and then do things. But then the Japanese people sometimes it's difficult because of their positions. Although everybody say you have to go this way, or but anyway, there's some kind of reservation. But here, once you understand, you change. I mean, that was one of the great parts of it. And hopefully this 75th anniversary brings some kind of changes of the awareness. Maybe even like a corona is one awareness too. So that I hope that will happen to the United States. So those two sides that I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful insight. And I think, what we've seen going on with the Black Lives movement here, Black Lives Matter, is that we also have to find that community again, that we can't make change, each and every one of us alone necessarily. We can do some, but to have that community of strength and a single voice with purpose will make all the difference. And so your words tonight are perfect for getting us thinking about how to come together. I would like to ask Carmen Nicole Smith if she could introduce herself and have some words of how she brings community together around the world. Carmen?
Hi, my name's Carmen. I was a dancer, and I did a lot of work internationally, working with various different kinds of populations around various social issues. And you know, the arts are one way. These programs are one way. You could do you could do cultural exchange programs where you use, you discuss nuclear energy and you find ways to create art together. I mean, the variations of that are infinite that you could do. Personally, the way that I deal with this kind of issue, the way that I feel like I'm doing my part, the way that I'm trying to make social change is within my own community, leading by example. You know, at present, I'm not dancing, and I don't have a platform for cultural exchange. I would love to. But I think, you know, it's important to remember that you can make change just by setting an example. So we put solar panels on our home. We invest in renewable energy. And I talk to everybody about it. I talk to my community about it. Just to let people know that we're responsible for our choices. And so I think that's one of the things that everybody could consider is how to prioritize certain kinds of energy use over others. How you engage it with your own art, obviously, is up to you. I don't know, I hope that addressed, you know, in the international community, everybody can advocate. You can contact your congressman. You can, again, make choices in your own life for renewables, which I think is I think my larger point is that if you personally choose renewables for yourself, you are not choosing a nuclear energy. That is a move away from a possible nuclear power plant. That's my thought on that right now.
That's great. Thank you, Carmen. I wanted to see if Youko, would you like to talk a little bit about the nuclear ban treaty and what we still need to do to get that passed worldwide? And actually, I mean, it's making it actually.
I saw.
Go ahead.
I saw Manna raising hand, so
okay.
I want to hear.
Sure.
First.
Thank you. Go ahead, Manna.
Can't unmute.
I just wanted to follow up by saying, if people can't, I think it's unmuted now, yes. If people can't afford, and there are lots of subsidies and good ways to try to afford, or you don't have a rooftop or space to do your own solar energy, there are community solar projects that you can buy into. Almost all guarantee a 10% savings. I think we're in such a global climate crisis that we have to do, not just intend. So there are many, many ways to actually participate. But what I wanted to bring into the conversation was the people that really have the power over, for example, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is Congress. And in New York State, it's the state legislature. And in the county is addressing the climate crisis in ways that we make sure take the pressure off of nuclear so we can phase out nuclear energy. So voting and participating in the electoral process and supporting people who will make the right decisions at this critical time in history. You know, this is as important as prayer. It is as important as the cultural participations. And I work for Clearwater, so I deeply appreciate the power of song. But we have to also take those actions and make sure that we have government that will make the policies and fund the appropriate changes. Thank you.
So Carol-san.
Yes, those all.
Um,
Did you want to speak a little bit to that discussion of the banning of, I mean, the nuclear ban treaty? Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like, how many people know about that? What is the real name? But we're just calling it a nuclear ban treaty, but I'm sure there's a real name to it.
Yeah, there's a longer title, but that's also good.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a treaty that's trying to ban the making, nuclear weapon, saving it and using it, abusing it, and I think that back in 2017,
yes,
the 83 countries signed for it, and I think I have to do a little more research about that. But as I remember, at this point, 50 countries were ratified, and no, is it 40? 40. 40 countries actually ratified, so that means official, but we need 10 more countries to make it official, and it makes it work.
Right.
And because there were like 83 countries signed for it, what are, other like 43 countries are doing? Maybe the big countries threatening them, or they just cannot do that, like trading with these countries who owns these nuclear weapons. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like since it's the September 21st, the Peace Day is coming up in a month and a half, and maybe we can just think of some like plan or ideas, like how we can encourage those countries who did sign but have not actually ratified yet. Just we need 10 more countries to make the treaty real. And I'm not sure how strong it's going to be, but at least we have some real official treaty, just trying to push it to bigger countries and things like that. So we have some draft type of thing that gonna be, real with 10 more countries, like officially, what is the English word, rafting? Is it? Ratify, thank you. Ratify.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to figure out how we can help these 43 countries to ratify the treaty so that it's going to be official. That's one thing that I want to, bring it up.
Right. And I think maybe one thing that we can do, we're sort of sliding into starting a little bit with what we have called the action agenda, but if anyone still wants to bring in more information, if someone wants to talk more about the treaty and has more information, that would be great. But one thing, Youko, that might be good to do is have the list of the countries that have not ratified it be listed on your website. And so we can start to identify where to put our energies to get especially the larger countries and powerful countries to step up, to get them to step up and actually put some pressure on to ratify the treaty for their country. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I'm sorry, I can't get everyone up on my screen at once. I'm seeing some people are adding lists of countries that have signed and ratified it, and maybe a list of people or countries that have not. But does anyone else like to step in at this time and add a few thoughts or questions?
What about Professor Konigsberg? Where is he?
Here he is.
Here I am, yes. One thing I was going to remind everybody about, one thing Youko said was that any country that has a nuclear reactor for making electricity has the potential to make atomic bombs. So I think I mentioned that before. This is part of the problem with proliferation and with control of nuclear weapons. nuclear reactors, peaceful nuclear reactors for improving, for creating energy in places are not very peaceful and very dangerous in the wrong hands. And even, and probably even in the right hands. So probably there are no right hands. So.
Carol-san, I can hear Al.
Yes. I'm sorry?
I can't hear Al, actually.
He's unmuted.
Oh, okay.
I think he's finished speaking.
Okay,
for the moment.
all right. So then I just received a few questions came through during this discussion, and let me just read it. Question: how can we engage younger generations that didn't grow up with the threat of nuclear power and nuclear weapons as our speakers did? Did I make it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, how can we engage young people who don't know about the threat? But, you know, like somebody like Mayu-chan, you know, she just happened to have her grandmother, you know, survivor of Hiroshima. So she has a very strong the bond to that. But so she's one of the, you know, exceptional person. But maybe, you know, we can ask Mayu-chan what she's thinking about just getting her generation engaged in this kind of activists. You know, what do you think? Like, can we ask her to just speak up?
So yes, but I don't think, you know, for example, my generation in Hiroshima, many of our generation is kind of third generation of survivors, but not so many people have strong connection or strong feeling towards the history of Hiroshima actually. So I try to push, you know, that member, for example, I try to talk to them, but it's kind of minorities in Hiroshima as young people. So it maybe not like where you're from, how do you connect yourself to atomic bomb itself, but how do you see the risk, the real risk you feel towards the world you live in right now. So there are those, you know, people who are interested in climate change activism right now, and we try to connect ourselves together. But the thing is, I feel the kind of problem is not problem, but the issue is that we separate ourselves in different fields like climate change, nuclear issues, and there are many like minorities, LGBTs, like there are many fields, but actually we really care about the society. So we should try to connect ourselves and try to like widen the circle in different parts of Japan, different parts of the world. Yeah. I don't know if it's answer for
it is. But I think we
Mayu-san,
need, yeah.
I have a quick question for Mayu-san. Do you find when you invite, when you have these get-togethers at the cafe and you have survivors join in conversation, do you also find that there are young people that come and sit and try to learn and understand the power of just the having survived the bomb drops? Do you find that young people are interested in coming along and being part of those conversations?
Yes, there are young people who are coming to the cafe to learn. Not really many young people, but I think the thing is many children come to Hiroshima, learn about the history, and they grow up. And some students still interested in the history of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and learn from them, but it's difficult for them to continue the interest and activism when they grow up and start working. I now try to make it a job. Like we have to make, our living sometimes on what we do, educate people about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and other nuclear issues around the world. So I think that's the one thing we need to do.
Thank you.
That's a great idea, yeah. Manna Jo's raising hand. Carol-san.
Yes, go ahead, Manna Jo, if you unmute, that'd be great.
Not yet.
Not, there we go. I just want to say that that war is our common enemy, and if we, well, I want to back up and say that I just finished a climate reality training. I was a mentor for 20 people, and there were 500 mentors, and we trained almost 10,000 people across the world. And probably 20–25% of them were young people. Young people care about their future. And I think that that's an important place to connect. But I also want to say that the dollars that are spent on our military budget and on the full military industrial complex and the unnecessary death and destruction that results in, if that could be invested in solving the global climate crisis, I think that that would be something very important to work for. And I think that young people understand that, you know, Greta Thunberg and here in the United States, Alexandria Villasenor. Locally, we have a young woman who's 14 years old, and she serves on the Ulster County Climate Smart Committee, Maitreya Motel. Clearwater spends a lot of time empowering young people, and I hope that we can include that in all the work that we do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Manna. Youko-san. Did you want to speak, Youko?
No, sorry. I forgot to unmute. I wanted LIana to just come and talk. LIana Gabel?
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. This has been, it's been a pleasure to be here. And I want to talk to Mayu. Am I saying your name correctly? Just quickly. I don't know if you heard the song at the beginning, and I had the pleasure of at the past Peace Conference speaking with, or hearing the story of Tamika-san, and so I wrote a song, which I hope, as Manna said, you know, we need songs, but we also need action, and part of the chorus is let's work together for peace. Anyway, Mayu, I just want to connect with you, and I hope that I can share the song with you, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. So I just wanted to put that out there and say hello. And also, Manna, I have a question about step-by-step. I think all of this information, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm reacting, and I'm like, why am I reacting? You know, I watch the news every day. I hear about Indian Point. I hear about all these things going on, and I'm reacting, you know, still. It's like, should I still be surprised? But I am at all of this information. And you've talked a little bit about step by step, like what to do, but if you were to break it down in the most simple way, like a 1, 2, 3 for young people, what is that?
Are you asking me specifically?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
It's a little bit, you know, just bear with me, but I think it will help you in every single decision. And it comes from work that was done in Sweden and around the world. And it's called the natural step. There's a natural step for businesses, municipalities, individuals, you name it. And it's what we take, what we make, what we break, and what we fake. What we take is what we take out of the Earth's crust, whether it be fossil fuels, heavy metals, uranium, other radioactive materials, and release them into the living portion of the Earth, the biosphere. We take it out of the lithosphere, and this has happened intensely since the Industrial Revolution. Living cells that evolved over time don't have defense mechanisms for those materials that were buried in the Earth's crust. They're not necessarily inherently bad or wrong, but we tend to have pathological responses. That's also true of the more than 100,000 chemicals that we make. And they need to be seen as guilty until proven innocent, and we've released them wantonly into the environment. The third principle is what we break, and that's intact ecosystems and species diversity. As our consumption and greenhouse gas emissions have increased, there's a parallel crash of species around the world. And the fourth principle is a double principle. It's what we fake, and it's what we fake. And that is this laptop computer that I'm looking at. 93 to 97% of the materials and the energy that were harnessed to create it ended up as waste. Only 3 to 7% end up in products typically. So that's part of what we fake. But the other part is the justice principle, the fairness and justice principle. And it's not sustainable to have such a huge disparity in wealth versus poverty. Now that is not the 3 simple steps that you were asking for. But if you take some time, and I'd be glad to work with you to flesh this out, and I have handouts and synthesized it. It is a tool for deciding, both in your personal life and in society at large, what works and what doesn't, what is or is not sustainable. And so what we're seeing in terms of climate change from the burning of fossil fuel and all the dangers associated with nuclear power and nuclear weapons are a violation of the first principle of the natural step. In Sweden, a kindergartner can tell you the 4 principles of the natural step, what they mean, and they have that tool to live by. So I slip that in anytime I get a chance. Get in touch with me, and we can work through that. But for young people, it's find what resonates for you and link up with others who are working on that particular issue. And so, if I can help at all, Manna Jo at clearwater.org, and I can give out my phone number as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to have one more word before we start to wrap this up? I would like to thank everyone for participating tonight, and especially, of course, to Youko Yamamoto for all of her hard work over the past 10 years. This is the 10th anniversary of the Bon-odori Dance Festival for Peace. And it would be wonderful someday if we don't have to have this anymore because all things have been fixed, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I wanted to let Youko be the final word this evening and share her thoughts or other things that are going to be going on, because the festival does not end tonight. There's still more events happening.
Yes.
So I want to give you the floor, and thank you so much for all your hard work for so many years that have kept us all sustained and interested in this worldwide problem, and keeping the news and the word alive, making us all more thoughtful and more actively involved as we go forward. Thank you,
Thank you.
Youko.
Wow, thank you for kind words. And but I just wanted to let everybody know I planned this, but I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the big support from two big, many people, helped me, but two big support, Radio Kingston and Seed Song Farm, and that's two big factors this time that made it happen. So just want to let everybody know, please just go into a Bon-odori Dance Festival website, which is really simple, www.bon-odori.org. B-O-N, that's Bon-odori, O-D-O-R-I, bon-odori.org. And please just go through that and just how many, wonderful businesses and people are related to bring this in. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And I'm very happy, even though the conference scale got shrunk because of this accident, but we still had a, wonderful conference. And I really enjoyed our special guest, Mayu-chan from Hiroshima. And actually, two things are happening after today. And what I planned was live, it's hybrid. So live and online, not conference, it's prayer, but we like to do this prayer. And again, we go back and see the Song Farm where we did pop-up theater, and we showed a few anti-nuclear, anti-war movies right there. But we're gonna go back there for the prayer. That's the time we're targeting, the time that the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima, which is tomorrow, our time tomorrow, August 5th, and the actual prayer time is 7:15 p.m. evening event. And we're gonna have a wonderful musician like LIana Gabel and Juma Sultan and Barry Lays. They are coming and they do perform, plus they're gonna lead the peace song singing, and which is really nice event. And also we're gonna show one of our caravan's hand dance, like Indian hand dance for all the live creatures. And we're going to have the book reading of Hiroshima by John Hersey. And we have a Ho'oponopono singing. It's actually recorded and it's going to be nicely streamed. So we're going to have like, I'm sorry, forgive me. And we're going to do little Japanese prayer. And we just can bring us down. And we're going to have like 1 minute complete silent prayer. So just to join us. And if you are far away, you can just to go in Radio Kingston Facebook or Bon-odori Facebook to just to get on the live streaming. So we can be connected all over. And we're going to be connecting to Mayu-chan's cafe too. So they will be streaming our image of what we are doing. And we're going to be seeing what's going on in Peace Park in Hiroshima too. So we will create like virtual space, and we share the time together, and we send our energy and prayer to all over the world. So I hope that everybody can, join us in any way, live, virtually, just a thought, feeling, anything, to just think of these victims that they had just totally innocent, and we do not want to repeat that again. And one thing I just forgot to tell, back in 1945, actually 54, when the accident happened in Bikini Island, that's the time that everything was kind of twisted. The atomic power is now used for peace instead of weapon. That is a propaganda. It's not peace use. We cannot use the same power, nuclear fission, that killed that many people, and still we are threatening. It's threatening us every day. Cannot be used to provide us power that we are depending on. That's totally sinful. That's what I think. I will keep on doing this, for the next 10 years, 20 years, as long as I live. and I'll be keep on inviting Manna Jo and Al and everybody. So I hope that we get together and we can unite to show our power of humans. That's my prayer. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I want to see everybody's face. Many people already left. That's so nice. Thank you so much, Professor Konigsberg, and thank you, Henry. Thank you, Carmen. Everybody should see Carmen's video. It's amazing. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. You know, she's a wonderful drummer. You should come to next year to a Bon-odori Dance Festival, and she'll be drumming and singing. And thank you so much. Meno-kun 帰ってきた。I know him for the whole time. He was a former, actually, what do you explain? Can you unmute Meno-kun? And can you just say what?
Yeah, good morning from Tokyo and good evening, New York. Thank you very much for having me a chance. Yeah, I used to be a government official, but now I'm retired. So I had some experience to attend to the international conference, like Vienna Convention or something. But I know that the very complexity of the international relation. But as I know that the power of the human is very huge, so it is a basic to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for giving me a chance, and thank you very much.
Yeah, that's so nice to see your face again. Yeah. Great. Oh my God. So, and I had a few more questions came through, but I think everybody's tired. And thank you so much, Nakagaki-san. The Nakagaki-san is the Buddhist monk that comes to Bon-odori Dance Festival every year, and he chants and he give us a wonderful, story, and he's amazing. So, we have some information about each speaker tonight, who spoke tonight in our, again, website, bon-odori.org. So please go in and check who are here tonight. And hopefully, if everybody can just send me the links, like Mayu-chan, you didn't send me link, so we can find out each other, who we are and what we can do. And tonight, I really want to big thank you to Manna Jo Greene and Carol-san for moderator. But behind the scene, we have two important people. And Ray, tech support. Ray, thank you so much, Ray. And where's Fukiko-san? Fukiko-san disappeared somewhere. Oh, I don't know where Fukiko-san is. Oh, Fukiko-san's there, but she's not here. Maybe Fukiko-san. Okay, great. Fukiko-san did all the liaison with the people in Japan, and that made it possible for Mayu-chan to come in today. So I'm very, very happy. All right.
Kimi
ほら耳すま